The husband of a North London woman in prison in Iran has told ITV News he feels the government is keeping him in the dark, despite the Prime Minister raising her case with the Iranian president in person. Richard RATCLIFFE is in New York, where that meeting took place, trying to get answers about his wife Nazanin, who was arrested in April. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the story.
It wasn't the most relaxed of photo calls. Smiles were in short supply, but at least Britain's Prime Minister and Iran's President were talking. And in a meeting behind closed doors at the United Nations in New York, Theresa May was finally able to ask about Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe. It's almost 2 weeks since the London charity worker was jailed for 5 years in Tehran for allegedly plotting to overthrow Iran's government. Mrs Zaghari Ratcliffe's husband, Richard, is also in New York, desperately hoping for news.
I think behind the scenes that the Foreign Office doesn't let on all they're doing, and I wouldn't know how much more they're doing than from what they're letting on. The case is going on. I've been at times deeply frustrated with the Foreign Office and times, feeling reassured, and catch me on a different day, I will get a different answer.
The couple's 2-year-old daughter, Gabriella, is also a prisoner of the Tehran regime. Her passport's been confiscated, she's living with her grandparents and can't be with her mother or father.
Hopefully there'll be a resolution sooner rather than later, because obviously it's important that the children and the family get him back as soon as possible.
But despite the petitions and protests by family and supporters and the intervention of high-profile politicians, if Mrs Zaghari Ratcliffe's freedom is to be secured by diplomacy, it's unlikely to be swift. The face-to-face meeting in New York between the two leaders wasn't expected to produce an immediate response from the Iranians. Downing Street was giving away very little, saying only Mrs May and Mr Rouhani agreed to remain in close contact.
It was a big thing for us that Theresa May personally raised Nazanin's case and said it was a priority, and made a clear link between improving relations. Can't go on if you keep taking a mother and a baby hostage, or other families, British citizens hostage for no reason.
But for now, Mrs Zaghari Ratcliffe is trapped in a Tehran prison. The charges against her are still unclear, and she's about to begin her 7th month in captivity. Simon Harris, ITV News.
A year ago, Sadiq Khan said he'd scrap the plan to build a garden bridge over the Thames if he was elected as mayor. Then when he won, he went back on that, saying too much money had already been spent on it. Well, today he announced an investigation into the finances behind the project, and opponents hope this will mean the end of an idea that's already cost £37 million. Our political correspondent Simon Harris has the details.
You pay no tax here, and that really riles us. You're either incredibly naive or totally incompetent. We're not accusing you of being illegal, we're accusing you of being immoral.
She made her name as the feisty, no-nonsense chair of a House of Commons spending watchdog. Now, Dame Margaret Hodge is to investigate the controversial garden bridge scheme. She's been hired by London's mayor to find out if it's value for money, and the bridge's critics are hoping her verdict will scupper the project.
That's not my job. My job is purely to look at whether or not £40 million, which is a lot of money to Londoners, has been properly used.
The price tag for the bridge is now £185 million, more than triple the original estimate. It includes £60 million of public funding in the form of grants and loans. According to the mayor, almost £40 million of that has been spent and can't be recovered. But on the river, there's no sign of the builders' barges and pile drivers. By now, construction work should have started, but the project is behind schedule. The Garden Bridge Trust is still £55 million short of its fundraising target. And despite 3 years of negotiations, it still hasn't reached a deal for this piece of land on the South Bank. City Hall sources insisted to me the project isn't in doubt, but observers think the mayor's review could sound the death knell.
You set up an inquiry, if that comes back and reports that actually this is a terrible waste of money, then it's not Sadiq's fault if it gets cancelled, is it?
Is that what you're hoping, that it will be scrapped?
Absolutely. We knew from the very beginning that it was a very contentious problem that would ruin the South Bank and ruin the views.
Daniel Moylan is a former advisor to Boris Johnson, and he's convinced Dame Margaret's review is a stitch-up.
Here you have a Labour mayor appointing one of the most politically partisan and difficult and hypocritical, actually, Labour MPs in London to carry out an inquiry
into his Conservative predecessor. Now, I don't think she's a fit and proper person to carry this inquiry out, and I think she should stand down and resign.
Dame Margaret's inquiry is expected to cost £25,000 and could take 9 months. Simon Harris, ITV News, the South Bank.
Next tonight, the homes in London proving very hard to sell. More than 60 properties on the Butterfield estate in Walthamstow were sold by a housing charity earlier this year. Many of the tenants are low-income families who now fear being made homeless after the new owners threatened legal action to evict them. But the landlords have a problem because local estate agents are refusing to sell them, as our correspondent Simon Harris has been finding out.
It might look like a for sale sign, but closer inspection reveals these are protest posters with a clear message. When a housing charity sold the 60 flats on the Butterfields estate at Walthamstow to a property firm, some tenants were told their leases wouldn't be renewed. But now they've persuaded local estate agents to block any attempt by their new landlord to sell their homes.
We had a little chat with our estate agency in Walthamstow, and they all assured us that they were coming to protect us. Definitely, they refused to deal with so bad business. They refused to broke the community.
Foxtons, one of London's biggest agents, said, having learnt of the residents' concern, we have decided to withdraw our services on this occasion. Another firm, Kings Group, said, our sympathies lie with the Butterfields Won't Budge campaign and our thoughts are with all residents on the estate at this time. Until this morning, this ground floor flat, priced at £350,000, was one of the few still on the market. When we contacted the agents, we were told the sale had just been suspended. The firm, it seems, was joining the boycott. The estate now belongs to a company called Butterfields E17 Limited. Some tenants have lived here long enough to enjoy protected tenancies, but others, like nurse and mum of 3 Daisy Lee, have been told to leave when their current lease expires.
It's already depressing because moving out is another adjustment for the children. We don't know where to go.
The registered address of Butterfields E17 Limited is this luxury home at Chigwell in Essex. When we tried to contact the directors for a comment, we were told they were not available.
No, they're not here, and we have actually clarified not to be bothering us, so yeah, they're not here.
OK, do you have anyone, do they have a spokesman or a...
No. Good luck with getting hold of them.
We've had credible offers to buy the estate and hold all the tenants there and keep them in their homes. Unfortunately, Butterfield's E17 seem more intent on thinking they can make a quick buck in this London housing market and so aren't negotiating.
Estate agents don't always enjoy a rosy reputation, but here at least the neighbours haven't got a bad word to say about them. Simon Harris, ITV News, Walthamstow.